My name is Fraser. I'm an alcoholic. I want to say thank you to Scott for being my sponsor and for being here today for me, for chairing this meeting, and to everybody else that's here. I really do appreciate it. I see there are some faces of people that have driven quite far, so thank you for that. I want to start off a little bit differently. My late mother and father, they met each other in Scotland and they started to date each other, and then as the process goes, they fell in love. And my father proposed to my mother and they planned to get married, and part and parcel of getting married is that they decided to immigrate from Scotland, away from Scotland to South Africa, to leave their family, their friends, and to have a new life in this country. And to have a better life for them and the family that they wanted to have, compared to what Scotland could have given them in those days. My mother fell pregnant, and unfortunately she lost her first child. Unbeknownst to her, my father had named the child, and which upset my mom quite a bit. Then she fell pregnant again, and I was born on the 17th of May. I was born on the 17th of May, 1969, and I was not the son that my mother and my father deserved, because when I was born they were happy, they were proud, A few years later on, my sister was born, and this is what my family, what my mother and my father, that's what they strived for. They left Scotland, they left everybody behind to have a new life with the family that they wanted, And I just never gave them the son that they deserved. And I never gave my sister the brother that she deserved. And you can go further, my friends, I never gave them, but I was born, I stayed in South Africa till I was 7 years old. Then we moved back over to Scotland. I stayed in Scotland for 5 years. We then immigrated back over here to South Africa. And I've been in South Africa ever since, from the age of 12. I firmly believe that saying that you are alcoholic before you pick up your first drink. My earliest memory in South Africa was of myself stealing a bicycle from school, when I was about 4 or 5 years old. My late mother once said to me that you've always been a nutter because you took razor blades to school. This is before the age of 7. I took my dad's razor blades to school. Why I did that, I don't know, but that wasn't normal behavior for a little kid, My fondest memories were the 5 years that I spent in Scotland. They were spent with my grandfather, my grandmother, my dad's aunties and uncles, because my dad's cousins, my dad's sister never married, she never had children, so I never had any direct cousins. But all on my dad's side of the family, there was a lot of uncles, a lot of aunts, a lot of cousins, and they were my fondest memories, of my childhood, having my family around me. Scotland is also where I had my first drink. My grandfather and grandmother used to bring out the bottle of whiskey at a certain time every night. I'm not too sure what time it was, but I remember when they were off to bed or whatever, the bottle was still there. And I remember pouring myself some whiskey and iron brew, Scottish iron brew. and drinking that. And I remember waking up in the middle of the night. My memory is of somebody small with this big, huge puddle of urine around me because I'd wet the bed. That's my earliest memory of alcohol. Scotland's also where I sniffed glue for the first time. Scotland's where I started to smoke. I think I was around about 9 or 10 years old when I started smoking cigarettes. I was naughty, I was a very naughty child. But on the same hand, I was also a mother's boy. I used to run to my mother a lot. I was a very frightened boy, extremely frightened. Whenever there was any trouble, I used to run to Mom, I remember that my mother sat me down and she said that we are going back to South Africa, but we're not going to take you if you don't start behaving yourself. And I remember that so clearly. And, I'm 12 years old and I'm basically being told, look, you're naughty and we're not going to take you over with it if you're going to behave yourself. And I said, yes, I will. And for a parent to say that to a child of 12, it's not a nice thing. For a parent to have been brought up to all the different schools my whole life, in Scotland, especially in Scotland, because it was new to me. This was a very conservative country, and I went over to Scotland, and there's a massive difference between South Africa in those days and Scotland. I remember joining the smokers, and you can't just go and smoke. You're going to get beaten to join the club, and they beat me up just so that I could have a puff with the smokers. So it was vastly different in Scotland. The lifestyle was totally different. And then coming back to South Africa, it was a different shift. There was a different change again, because now I'm at an all-boys school. I stayed the block and a half away from the school in Johannesburg, Bes Valley. And everybody was neat, and they had the blazers and the ties, and everybody was like prim and proper compared to Scotland. I didn't do well at school. I was not academic at all. I didn't play sport. I hated sport. And I was in trouble a lot. I was continuing trouble. And then the headmaster said to my parents, look, your son's grades are shocking. I suggest you put him into boarding school. And I said, fantastic idea. And it is a great idea if you go to boarding school, 100 kilometers away from where you stay. But they put me in boarding school in the same school, which was across the road, which was only a block and a half away from my house. It just didn't make any sense. I was waving goodnight to my mom and my dad every evening. Not Ma, not Pa. And then Fausto, I'll never forget his name. He was from Portugal. He was also in boarding school there. And I walked into his room and he was putting something under his bed. And I said, what's that? And I discovered Dacha for the first time. And we said, come, let's go. And there was a park in Bes Valley called Zaidnat Park. And I remember smoking a joint with him. And that was it. I was just, joints are supposed to make you mellow. I remember running all over the place on my first puff. I was like, geez, I was flying. I was like literally flying, right? Just all over. And that was me. That was me. I found, because I didn't fit in, My parents put me into boarding school. I wasn't academic. I wasn't sporty. Still a very conservative country. Very few people smoked cigarettes out of a school of 300. There was only maybe 2 or 3 people that smoked cigarettes. So I really kind of felt, whereas in Scotland, the whole school smoked cigarettes, So I really didn't feel as if I fitted in anyway. But then I smoked this joint, and that was me. I was hooked on Zol. That's all I did. Just totally hooked on Zol. I would smoke Zol on the way to school. I would smoke Zol, and you'd make a plan for money, And Dacha didn't cost that much in those days, My grades slipped even further. I failed school. when guys were doing, we had a thing in those days called cadets on a Wednesday, where people used to dress up in a mini army uniform and go marching on the sports field. You know, while everybody was doing normal activities or the activities that you should be doing, Fraser was at the swimming pool smoking a joint saying, look at those deuces. You know, honestly, fucking idiots. You know. But in retrospect, I was the idiot. You know, I was the complete idiot because, and from an early age, Fraser did what Fraser wanted to do. I should mention that. From an early age, Fraser always done what Fraser wanted to do, not getting the consequences of my behavior. Or not getting anything, just doing what I wanted to do, you know. Kept on bunking. Then I came out of boarding school back home. So they took me out of boarding school, back home, a block and a half away. And I was bunking. I just was bunking school. I had a good mate in school, Jean-Pierre, big Italian lad. He had a 50cc motorbike. Me and him used to bunk school on the motorbike. I remember the first big move I ever did in terms of stealing was we walked past a milk cart. And in those days, you had the cart, and the guy used to take the bottle, steal the bottle of milk, and people used to leave money out, you know, for the milkman. I'll never forget, me and Jean-Pierre, we walked past this milk carton, and I saw this big bucket there, and we walked, and for some reason I thought, no way. I looked for the milkman, he was nowhere to be seen. I went and I grabbed this bucket of change, and off me and him went to his flat. Took us 3 weeks to count all the change, but we got quite a lot of money out of it, you know. And that was like my first adventure into theft. And it was easy, you know, it was so easy. Really, it was very, very easy, you know, just to take something that didn't belong to you and without thinking of the consequences, you know, of what you've just done. My family had enough, you know. They were constantly being brought up to the headmaster's office. I was constantly being jacked. In those days, you got caned. I was constantly being suspended. Just naughty, nothing serious, just naughty. And my dad warned me the one day. He said, you know what, if you bunk school again, I'm going to kick you out. You know, and I was 15. And I thought, yeah, all right. And I bunked school, and he came home early. It was a Friday. And when I got home, he said, I'll pack your bag, you know. I'm going to kick you out. Well, I'm kicking you out. I warned you, you know. And I'll never, ever, till the day I die, forget me standing at my front door in Bears Valley with my suitcase. I packed the suitcase up. And my dad shaking my hand. I'll never forget this. And he said to me, oh, I hope you make it in life, son. And it's actually ironic that moment when he shook my hand, throughout the rest of my life, my dad always used to go back to that moment. He says, you're 15 again. I'm 30 odds, I'm 20 odds, I'm 40 odds. He would always go back to that moment and say, you're still 15, you know, in your behavior. I left and I moved straight away into a commune in Yeovil. And I got introduced to mandrakes. And mandrakes was just a thing for me. You know, I'm 15 years old. I got no money. And in those days, you must remember, you had dagga, you had mandrakes, you had acid, and you had a thing called pinks. That's all you had. It's not like today with this massive variety of drugs. You only had 4 things on street level anyway that you could use. I fell in love with mandrakes. I fell in love with the whole, how can I put it, with the whole, with the dealers who sold mandrakes, because it was the coloureds from Cape Town. You know, in those days there was no Nigerians, there was no foreigners, it was South Africans who sold drugs, mainly coloureds. And I fell in love with this whole 28, and they all had knives, and they were all going to stab you, and they were all gang-related, and they all had tattoos. There's a couple of fucking, their whole bodies are covered in tattoos, and and I liked that. I liked that vibe. I liked smoking buttons. I started to carry a knife around with me, or kapi. For many, many years, I carried a knife. But then I also started to change. They say they say to take the mask off. That's when, and even before then, I started to put the mask on. I started to become somebody that Fraser wasn't. In that environment, I started stealing a lot. We started going around. That's all I did. In actual fact, I just stole. We started going around. We did house breakings. That's all we did. We broke into houses. We pulled moves. There were older guys. Me being the youngest, I'll be the one to go. And it was very easy. In those days, you went up, you knocked. If nobody answered the door, you broke in, because there was no alarm systems. There was no security. I always remember socks. You just take your socks off, put your socks over your hands. There's your gloves, no finger. And that's what we did. I smoked. Then the army came around. And I don't want to go too much into it, but everything I've done in my life, I have never completed, or if I have completed it, I've gone in the same person. I've come out the same person as the way I went in. I didn't finish my education. I went into the army. I did 2 years national service. So just quickly, prior to the army, Jean-Pierre, my mate from school, we did acid once. The thing was, we were going to do acid together. And I just come back from Pretoria, and I had a gun that I had stolen. And he came in, he said, come, let's go do acid. And by that time, was me being on the streets, I was no more associated with Glenn, who's a school guy. With Jean-Pierre, I was associated with somebody else called Glenn, because he was on the streets, I was on the streets. So we kind of parted ways. And then Jean-Pierre came up the one day and he said, yes, Manu, let's go get acid. And I'll never forget, I went down to get the acid, and I handed this weapon over, and I got a lot more than just the one cap. The three of us, for the first time, took an acid each. And later on, when we were just starting to trip, Jean-Pierre came and said, let's go, because he was still in the mentality that me and him were going to do acid for the first time together, but Glenn was there now. So I said, no, we can't. I can't really remember what happened. But anyway, he left. And then it's very sad, because a week later on, he shot himself twice in the head, once, and then the nanny came over, and he managed to get the gun, and he shot himself again, Jean-Pierre. And he was 16 years old, due to an acid trip, and whatever that did to his head, and whatever that evening did to his head. As I was saying, I've never finished anything. My schooling, I did not complete. My 2-year national service, I went in as a private, I came out as a private. Although I was up in the border and I was in Angola, I should have come out, but I came out the same person. I got an apprenticeship. I started the apprenticeship as a tool and die maker through my father. Was creepy crawly in Germiston. We manufactured creepy crawly in those days. Fantastic apprenticeship. But buttons, my life revolved around working and smoking. I smoked every single day, I moved in with, I would say, I haven't had many relationships. I've had maybe 3 relationships my whole life. My first one, which was serious, was Shelley. Myself and her moved in. She stayed in Hillbrow. Beautiful girl, from Swakopmund in Namibia, Irish descent. Worked for the bank, nice girl, you know. And I remember when we moved into, well, when I moved into her place, you know, I can't say when we moved in together because she had her own place in Hillbrown. When I moved into her place, it was a girly, it was nice. You know, she had everything. She had the fridge, she had all the magnets, she had, it was really a nice looking flat, you know. 3 years down the line, she kicks me out of a different, and there was nothing in the flat anymore. You know, I think this is the point I'm trying to get at, is that there was somebody else who I came into their life, and although she loved me, she couldn't take me anymore. You know, same as my parents, they couldn't take me anymore from a young age. And everybody that I seemed to have come in contact with, oh great, this, that. And then eventually it's, you know, really you have to go, you know, because you're not, we just don't want to be around you anymore, because Fraser wasn't a very nice person to be around. So myself and Shelley were together during my whole apprenticeship. There's another thing, I didn't complete my apprenticeship because they sent me to Germiston Technikon to do my N1, my N2, my N3. I couldn't even survive at school. Now they want me to do technical stuff at a technical college. It just didn't work out. And there was a pub around the corner, and I was more in the pub than anything else. I had my first little car then, my little Toyota SR5. I had an argument. I had an accident, smashed my car, moved back. Shelley's finished. I shouldn't say it like that. Shelley said, you finished. You know, I don't want anything more to do with you. I moved back with my parents, smashed my car up, got a lift to work one day with my father, and had an argument with him where I then walked into work and I said, that's it. I don't want to do this anymore. 4 years in an apprenticeship, you know, and I had 1 more year left to go, and I could have got my papers as a toolmaker. And then I ended up working at Fontana as a night shift manager in Hillbrown. I was about 22, 23 then. And then things just went down, went really down. Back to Beth Valley. I was staying with somebody, I think I was for a year on the artist. And every time, by the way, that I was staying at my parents' place, I was not staying in the house, I was staying downstairs in the girls' room, you know, because they couldn't have Fraser in the house. I would steal them blind. Whatever wasn't done, or let me put it this way, whatever I would think they wouldn't notice, I would steal. But they noticed, you know. I remember my mom was very, very upset, crying because I stole her china that she had gotten on her wedding day from her mother who had passed away, you know. And very sentimental stuff. You know, my mother was a beautiful woman. She was a lady who turned into an alcoholic, you know, through, she turned into an alcoholic. She never used to drink. And I think it's just a combination of, I don't know who I was, who my father was, who my sister was, or who she was herself. I don't know. But she died an alcoholic. And then she was such a beautiful woman, you know. 25, I was 25 years old when I ended up in Krugersdorp with another mate to go steal exotic plants. Yeah, you know, his parents did exotic plants. At the time, it sounded like a fantastic idea, you know. Let's jump on a train and get to Krugersdorp and steal these exotic plants. What we were going to do, I had no idea. But anyway, so I'm on the train with us. So we get to Krugersdorp late at night. We sneak into this nursery, which is at the back of the garden of his parents' place. And it's all fucking cactuses, man, little tiny miniature cactuses. I said, and I kind of realized, I think it dawned on me then that I've got no idea what I'm doing here, you know. Then his family woke up and there was a house next door, his parents were looking after the house, and it was empty, and she said, you can stay here. But we ripped that house, you know, we took all the fans, we whatever we could get, we unplugged, we ripped that whole house apart. And went to job back then, and then we went back. And then what actually happened on the Saturday is that we were in a shopping center in Krugersdorp, and there was a old stir kindergarten center there. And there was a pastor there, Pastor Rudy Hoffman. And he sat us down, and he gave us a Coke, and he gave us a pie. And he said, come tomorrow, Sunday, to my service, and just come. So I said, yeah, all right. I woke up Sunday morning, I can't remember his name, he had gone. He went back to Joburg. So I went to the service, and in Afrikaans, and then he points to me, you know, and it was in a Stair Clinical building, so all the chairs are going down like this. And then before I knew it, I was up on stage, and the hands were on me, and everybody's praying for me. I haven't got a clue what's going on, but I'm going with this. And then they took me to a farm that he had. And I came right, you know. I smoked buttons from age of 15 to age of 25. Went through to this farm, and it was tough. There was no electricity, there was no running water. We fed pigs, we took the goats out, we were constantly planting pumpkins and all types of other veggies. I can't even remember anymore, but we were constantly working. And chickens, we had a lot of chickens. We had to feed the chickens, and we couldn't eat them, you know. I remember that. And we were hungry, but we couldn't eat the friggin' chickens. But every now and again, we would steal a sackload of chickens and go up, still live, and go up to the township and sell them for 5 rand or 4 rand a chicken, and get a bottle of the cheapest vodka, just for the 3 of us. And one time, the 2 of them, I can't remember their names, the old man and another, they did it. They went off, and they came back so pissed, and they drank the vodka. You know, and I was waiting for that. I was waiting for my share of the vodka, you know. And I don't know what happened, but we ended up fighting, and it's not that difficult to demolish 2 drunk people, you know. And I always went to church, but I always went back to the church every Sunday. There was people that came, that would come and pick me up, and I'd say, God, you know, I always wanted to go to church, so I always went to church on a Sunday. And then I met Evert and Eve, and then before I knew it, they took me off the farm. Eve had her own hairdressing salon. Evert worked at the OK Bazaars, and I got a job at the OK as a security guard. You know, it was fantastic, little OK Bazaars tower, standing at the front gate. I stayed off, I was clean. From age of 15 to 25, I was an addict, alcoholic. I managed to get off Mandrax for about 7 or 8 years. But I substituted, and I became a full-blown alcoholic in that time. I got fired from the OK Bazaars for drinking on duty. They give me all the warnings, and then they caught me one more time, and I was, you can't really be a security guard if you're pissed, and they fired me. I remember going back to Nielsen Gear Repair in Joburg, Bertram's, asking them if they had any vacancies. I worked for them for a long time, Biana. They said no, but the daughter, Brenda, had opened up a branch in Pretoria. So I managed to speak to her on the phone, and I got a position in Pretoria. So I then moved to Pretoria. I've had no transport or anything. I've never had transport. I had one car when I was a kid and I smashed it up. So no transport. Moved to Pretoria. Got a flat above the police station in Pretoria West. And yeah, life was okay. You know, I wasn't smoking. But I was doing normal things what normal people do, which is drink. I'd work, and I wasn't drinking during the day. I'd work, and I worked hard. I really did. I worked very hard for that company. She was never there. And I was put into a position where I was dealing more with customers and doing my own work. And then I met Lucas, who, through the business, he was a manager at Gearbox and Diff Rebuilding, and we became mates. We drank a lot after hours. They worked a lot of overtime. Nielsen Gear Repair wasn't that far from Gearbox and Diff, so I used to walk there. We used to get have a few beers, leave, have a few more beers, and I'll get dropped off. And then the opportunity came when I was told that I can. The opportunity came through dealing with the customers when I shouldn't have been able to. I shouldn't have. That they were saying, open up your own business. I'm running out of time here. So very quickly, I left Nielsen Gear Repair. I managed to speak to my father. And it was my mother, actually, I heard later on, that convinced my father to put the money up for me and him to go into business. And we opened up Auto Gear Repair and Engineering in Pretoria West. Subsequently, Nielsen Gear Repair went under because of that. We did very well. We did extremely well. And although I was drinking heavy, I had something in me then concerning this business with my dad. I remember I was, before I get to that, myself and Lucas, Gearbox and Diff Rebuilding, they gave us our first check. You know, my mate gave me our first check at the end of the month. I can't tell you time-wise, but we were on our way to Ellis Rice. Long story short, I had an accident. Lucas got thrown out the wheels, 4 of us in the vehicle. I was the only one strapped in. I stayed in the vehicle. This was my car, my first car, second car, but brand new out the box. I had an accident, driving on a road that I've never driven before, drinking while driving, and overtaking on a bend that I should not have been overtaking on, and a car coming towards me and me coming in so quick that the vehicle went off the road. I mean, it's Ellis Rice, it's small little roads, and the car rolled, and Lucas was thrown out the vehicle. The other two, all 3 of them were thrown out, but the car rolled over Lucas, you know, and he passed away. So there's kind of 2 people in my mind that, you know, that are linked to me, that have passed away through drugs and through alcohol. That night I came down. I was seeing somebody. His wife used to play golf ball, you know, and it's an Afrikaans thing, very similar to netball. And in the team there was this girl Yolandi, who I liked, and through the accident, Yolandi came and picked me up at the hospital, and took me to her place. I didn't even go back. She was staying with her parents, you know. Took me to her place, and I just stayed. And we'd been together prior to the accident, but only once or twice. Whereas now the state I was in, she was helping me, she was caring for me, and she was such a lovely person. Yeah, and it got serious. The relationship got serious to the point that we moved out. I wanted my own place again, and I said, come, let's go. Spoke to her parents, and she was young, you know. And we moved in together, bought our first cat together, Sylvester. the first animal. The company just went. It really did. The company was doing very, very well. When I was driving a double cab in those days, I went overseas every second year. It really was doing extremely well. And it was a small company, it was a small amount of people. But I was there every day, you know. I had pride in the company. I had pride in my work, in my workmanship. I proposed to Yolandi. We got married. I bought a house in Horriebeersport Dam. Just before I stopped, this is very important. Just before I stopped smoking buttons, there was a thing that came on the street called Khafif. And I'd heard about this, Khafif. And then I found out Khafif is the South African word for crack. And in those days, what you had to do is you couldn't buy it ready-made. You bought your half gram or your gram. And you had somebody there, one of the dealers would cook it for you to form the rock. I could never afford it. It was 150 or 300 rand. I was smoking buttons. I tried it once or twice just before I went to Krugersdorp, and it was fantastic. You know, I stayed awake the whole night, I remember, smoking. And I couldn't believe I'd been awake the whole night. Got married, the company doing well. Next door there was a shop, Gav. You could see the stains. He smoked buttons, and we were just talking. Fuck the one day, man. You know, that's all we were doing. We were talking, and then I don't know how the subject came on to. But you get crack now for 50 rand, and it's there. You don't have to cook it. This is 8 years. I'm clean. I'm not sober, but I'm clean. I've got a business. I've got a beautiful house in Horriebeersport Dam. I proposed, I got married, I got a beautiful wife. I got 4 dogs, 1 cat. There's a couple of nachalpies in the garden, beautiful garden. Had a jet ski for the dam. You know, life was good. Life was. I had nothing, and then all of a sudden I got this, you know, and life was good. And I made a decision when I heard this to give this guy money and to buy me 10 rocks and a pipe and gauze. And I had a whole plan of how, this is 20 odd years ago, I had a whole plan of how I was going to do this that night, because we had a routine, and I knew what time Yolandi went to bed, and I always stayed up, you know. So my plan was, she goes off and I'll start smoking, no problem. But on the way home, after I picked her up, I said to her, this is what I've got. You know, and this is what I want to do. And she cried, huh? That woman cried her heart out on the way home. And she begged me not to do this, because she knew me with alcohol. We'd already been to the doctor, I'd been on anti-booze, and because I was drinking heavy. And now all of a sudden I'm telling this woman who loves me, and this woman who I loved at the time. You know, there's this whole perception, and I believe that you don't really love somebody if you do what you do, because you don't take their thoughts, or you don't take them into consideration. All you're doing is you're taking yourself into consideration. You know, you're being very selfish, and I was very selfish. And she cried her heart out, and she said to me, please, and she begged me, please don't do that. Please, 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 Fraser, don't do that. And she cried. And I said, look, it's no problem. From that day until last year, I lost everything. I lost everything. I lost her, I lost the house, I lost my animals, I lost my family once again. My parents had passed away. I've been in, since opening up Auto Gear Repair, and since I started back on the crack, I'd been in numerous institutions. I have got a criminal record, the length of my arm. I've been in numerous police stations. I've been in numerous awaiting trial jails. I destroyed everybody's love for me. I spoke to somebody the other day and I said to him, this is something I only realized two months ago. I was thinking about Yolandi, and I don't think about the past that much because it does upset me. And I was thinking about her, and it dawned on me that, do you know how powerful it is for somebody to lose their love for you? That is powerful. Huh? And I've only realized that now. You know, I'm 48. I'm only getting mature now at my age through this, you know, through this fellowship, through this program. I'm only starting to realize what kind of a person I've been in my life. And I haven't been a nice person. I've been a very selfish person. I've been I've just been very, very selfish, and I haven't been a nice person. I received a lot of money from my inheritance the first time I went into treatment, the one just up the road there. And I left on the 25th of September 2015 with a substantial amount of money. And 2016 I was in and out. But I spent that amount of money in 11 months. And I got to the point that the last time that I went into treatment, I went in and I signed my vehicle over because I did not have any more money. There was nothing there. And that was my only option left. I had an option to take it and sell it and give what was asked of me, but that would never have happened. I would never have come back. So I decided to do the only thing that was right at the time for me was to sign my vehicle over and to get help. The difference this time was obviously the dynamic around Fraser had changed. Who Fraser was had changed. The money was gone. There was no more money. Somebody once said to me in my last treatment center, they said to me, you know, Fraser, we get that you have conceded defeat over drugs. We get that. But what you haven't done is you haven't conceded defeat over yourself, you know. And all the time, my whole life, up until this last time that I went into treatment, I still held on to Fraser. Fraser's way, not your way. You know, Fraser's way. I'm going to do it. I'll listen to you, but I'm still in charge. This time around, there was an incident that happened. It was a God moment for me, where I saw something and I realized that I can change. And you know, I look back on it now and I say to myself, actually, it was so easy, you know. But I needed something to see. I needed to see something for me, not to be told. I had to see something. I had to witness something for me to actually realize that, hey, I can change. Not that I can, not that I want to change, not that I have to change, but I can change. Fraser can change. And I started to change. I started to listen to what was suggested to me, you know. I started to not be in charge anymore, you know, not be in charge. I wasn't in charge anymore, you know. It hasn't been an easy road for me from the age of 15 to 47, but it's been all my own fault. Nobody else's fault but mine. My behavior, my actions were the cause of so much pain and suffering in everybody around me. Fuck me. You know, a lot of people say, oh, I suffer. You know, it's the people around me that I hurt. You know, and I hurt them on a daily basis. You know. Where I am now this year, I left treatment. I was very, very lucky that I got a job. That has also been a part of my journey because it's taken me away, and I don't suggest this to anybody, to get a job that takes you away where there's no meetings. I do not suggest that to anybody, because meetings are very, very important. They are extremely important, and the fellowship is important. But I got a job that actually, unfortunately, took me away where there are no meetings, but it took me away. You know, I also landed a job where I work 7 days a week. You know, I work 3 weekends out of a month. I only get the 1 weekend out of a month, and that's helped me because it's helped me to focus. It's helped me to work. You know, the big thing, I haven't got much time here. The big thing that I want to say that was suggested that I have kept is keep it simple. You know, my life is very, very simple. In fact, the people I stay with, the site agents, and they're saying, "Geez, you got to get out some more," you know. And I'm saying, I'm happy where I am at the moment. I go to work, I come home. I go to work, I come home. You know, I have my weekend off. I come here and I fellowship. It's fantastic. But that keep it simple, I truly believe in that, because the more, and keeping it simple, you know, I'm not in charge when I keep it simple. You know, I just do what I have to do. You know, and that works for me. It really has worked for me this year. I haven't had a bad year. I've had my ups and downs in the beginning when I didn't get along with somebody, and then they moved me from a certain person and put me with somebody else. And there was an incident there, and there was an incident here that also happened with a lot of people that came on site, but I handled it different. And what this program has taught me is spiritual principles, man, you know, just be nice. Be a nice guy. That's what spiritual principles mean. Just be nice. Take it one day at a time. Listen to what is suggested to you. Yeah, I think that's about me. I'm out of time. Thanks for letting me share.